All right, all right, all right. All right, YouTube people. Right, there has been some claims that Polight's sexual charges has been removed. That is false. Okay. There's a guy named YK The Truth who's made a video claiming that there was no sexual related charges and he cannot be considered a sexual predator and all these excuses. So I wanted to clear it up, right? That Polight is a sexual psychopath and he is under the scrutiny of sexual psychopath laws. The judge considers him to be mentally unstable and to have a mental defect. And that mental defect is he can't control himself sexually with children. Okay? Now we're going to listen to what I'm talking about. And we're going to listen to what the judge says because people think that he got off light because he didn't register as a sex offender. Bullshit. I think he got a heavier charge. The 4 charges they removed and the 2 new charges, which was child abuse, aggravated child abuse, and great bodily harm. Those charges are more egregious than the previous lewd and lascivious charges and the child molesting charges he had. They carry 30 years each, when the other charges only carried 15 years max. These max out at 30 years. Child abuse. What kind of child abuse, you may ask? Sexual child abuse, when you get into the particulars. Sexual abuse of a minor, when you get into the particulars. But the charge just simply reads aggravated child abuse. But people want to know what kind of abuse. Sexual abuse. He was charged, convicted, and pled guilty to sexual abuse, child abuse. Prove this shit, Chief X. So we're going to listen to what the judge said. First, the judge told the state to give, in general, the stipulations of the plea deal. So let's listen to that. Hold on. Pay attention, because this requires great listening comprehension. I got this from my girl Trip C's Treehouse page. She's been on the Polight case since day one, right? So listening comprehension is in order.
And every aspect of it, but the major components of the plea agreement. But what I am going to ask is for the state to tell me the general terms of the plea agreement, and then
he said he wants to state, the prosecutor, to tell him in general, the general terms, not in-depth specifics. They didn't get in-depth specifics, right? So listen.
Go into the details on the contract. Go ahead.
Your Honor, the plea agreement includes an adjudication, 7 years of state prison, followed by 10 years of reporting probation. As a condition of probation, the defendant will...
Would you say 10 years probation?
10 years reporting probation. Okay. The defendant will complete the MDSO program. The defendant will...
MDSO program, I'm going to break that down to you. That's a sex offender treatment program. He pled guilty to being a sex offender. That was a child abuse, sexual abuse of a child.
Allowed to have unsupervised contact with children. The defendant will have specific terms regarding...
He can't have unsupervised visits with children. More than likely, that includes his own children. When I worked at Edelman's Children's Court as a legal assistant, they put these stipulations on you in the disposition, and you have to have supervised visitations. He has to have supervised visitations with children, all children.
Where he may work and the ability to wear a uniform. There are additional terms of restitution, of which 5,000 has been agreed to be.
Now, we know all this, so let's just move forward to what the judge got to say. He's going to get into a little more particulars. She was just giving a general overview.
Within 24 hours mailed. Additionally, there will be a stay.
What is the total amount of the restitution? Noack, the terms of the plea.
Now, the judge is going to go into the particulars and break this down. Here we go.
Okay, so Mr. Noack, the terms of the plea agreement are as what the prosecutor just stated, that you are going to be entering a plea of guilty to the 2 counts of aggravated child abuse and 1 count of deliberate contributing to the delinquency of a minor. You will be adjudicated guilty, which is a criminal conviction on your record. Do you also understand, sir, that by entering into this plea that it may subject you to involuntary civil commitment proceedings set forth in Florida statutes 394.910 through 394.9?
Listen to that again. He said involuntary civil commitment. What is an involuntary civil commitment?
1. Civil commitment proceedings set forth in Florida statutes 394.910 through 394.931. Do you understand everything that I've said thus far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, he understood that he has to do involuntary civil commitment. He really didn't understand. That's why he said, yeah. I don't think he got prepped on that. That's why he was hesitant with that. Yeah. Let's listen.
Now, I want to also 910 through 394. So understand, sir, that by entering into this plea that it may subject you to involuntary civil commitment proceedings set forth in Florida statute.
Involuntary means it's not voluntary. You're basically forced. This is what's going to happen.
394.910 through 394.931. Do you understand everything that I've said thus far?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I want to also advise you, sir, that you are going to be sentenced to 7 years in state prison to be followed by 10 years of reporting probation. In addition to any of these special conditions of probation, you will also participate in and successfully complete a mentally disordered sex offender treatment program.
Mentally disordered sex offender program. Meaning he's a sex offender, although he doesn't have to register on the sex offender list. Let's break this down because people are confused. No, he didn't get off light. And thanks, attorney Keisha Al-Shabazz. This is where I kind of got this clue from, got a lot of this information from. But when I heard involuntary civil commitment, it rang a bell to me. But I said, I just looked into it today. But attorney Keisha Al-Shabazz clarified it for me. I said, that's what the fuck it is. Now, let's go, people. Okay, I'm back. I'm doing this on my cell phone because I'm at a little hotel room and I'm not on my desktop where I can really get down and share my screen. So it's janky, but here we go. Mentally disordered sex offender. Right? What is that? Hold on, where my pen at? Mentally disordered sex offender, or AKA sexual psychopath statute. He's been deemed a sexual psychopath. This is a sexual offenders treatment program, the MDSO. Okay, are you following me? He is deemed by the courts a sexual psychopath. That's what MDSO is. It's a program for people who are sexual psychopaths. Let's continue on. Let me just finish reading this. Mentally disordered sex offender or sexual psychopath statutes are dispositional options for courts to divert what? Mentally disordered persons convicted of sexually motivated acts. He was convicted of a sexually motivated act against a minor. Okay, so mentally disordered persons convicted of sexually motivated acts into the mental health system. So they're throwing you into the mental health system. What mental health system? The state mental health system, meaning a state crazy house, a state psychiatric place facility. Prove that shit, Chief. Hold on. Involuntary civil commitment. This is what the judge said he has. Sex offender civil commitment. Okay? This is an involuntary civil commitment. You heard the judge, right? During the past 15 years, sex offender civil commitment laws have emerged that require some dangerous sex offenders, this is what he is, a sex offenders, to receive what? Involuntary treatment in a secure facility after their criminal incarceration. Meaning, people, after he does his 7 years, which I made a mistake earlier saying he has to do 100%. No, state of Florida, you have to do 85% of your time. So if he got 7 years, basically he has to do 6 years. After this 6-year time, he gets out and is on parole, probation, whatever you want to call it, right? He enters into a treatment facility after the criminal incarceration, into a mental health state facility. Following an assessment of risk, sex offenders who are considered likely to reoffend, he could reoffend, he has a pattern, are entitled to a trial with the judge and jury where evidence of their dangerousness is presented. If they are found to meet statutory criteria for civil commitment, they are detained with what? Yearly evaluations. So he gets an evaluation, he's placed in there, and then he could, in another year, they evaluate him. They say, nah, this motherfucker ain't well. And keep him in there for another year. This is serious, people. Where evidence is dangerous presented, if they found to meet statutory criteria for civil commitment, they are detained with what? Yearly evaluations. Until they are considered no longer dangerous to the community. Until they deem you okay. They might keep your ass there for 3 years. Right? Until they are no longer dangerous to the community. Sexually violent predators, this is what he is. A sexually violent predator. His charge was aggravated child abuse with great bodily harm, meaning he's a sexually violent predator, an SVP. You see? Statutes seek to prevent the reoccurrence of sexual victimization by incapacitating potentially violent and dangerous sex offenders. Right? That's what they're talking about. This is a sex offender's civil commitment that the judge said he's bound to. Let's continue. Hold on. Now, we're back. In California, which is basically the same as Florida, mentally disordered sex offender, which that's what he is. You are wrong, YK the Truth. Here we go. Abstract. California defines a mentally disordered sex offender as any person who, by reason of mental defect, disease, or disorder, is predisposed to the commission of sexual offenses to such a degree that he is a dangerous to the health and safety of others. He's a danger to the public, people. When any person is convicted of a criminal offense, if it appears that there is probable cause to believe him to be a mentally disordered sex offender, MDSO, the issue may be raised before the court in which he has been convicted. It was raised in that court where he was convicted. It is determined that the individual is indeed an MDSO. He is usually referred to what? a state hospital. A state mental health hospital is what they're saying. For observation, diagnosis, and possible treatment. This report statistically analyzes MDSOs committed to state hospitals in regard to their type of offense: sex, race, age, prior criminal record, prior sex record, current criminal status, and county source. The MDSOs discharged during the same period were analyzed according to the type of discharge. Okay. This is what it is. He has to go to a state hospital after he serves his incarceration time. Let's continue. Let's just define it a little deeper. What is an involuntary civil commitment? Defined by the United States Health and Human Services, civil commitment, involuntary, hospitalization of a patient, is the legal process by which a person is confined in a psychiatric hospital because of a treatable mental disorder against his or her wishes. Against his wishes. This is involuntary. Psychiatric hospital. The nigga's nuts. Let's continue. Next question. What is the most frequent cause for civil commitment? The presence of mental illness is a prerequisite for civil commitment. Other criteria frequently include dangerous behavior towards self or others, grave disability, and the need for treatment. Let's continue. So we've established he's a sexual psychopath earlier. Under sexual psychopath laws. Let's scroll up. This has been on the books a long time. Let's read what it says. The sexual psychopath laws, right? In recent years, several states have made an effort to protect the public from what? Sexual psychopaths. Persons with criminal propensities to the commission of sex offenses, by authorizing their commitment to what? Mental institutions. Implicit in these laws is an ideology which has been made explicit in an extensive popular literature. This ideology contains the following propositions, okay? Listen, they were made it because what? Women and children are in great danger in American society because serious sex crimes are very prevalent and are increasing more rapidly than any other type of crime. J. Edgar Hoover wrote the most rapidly increasing type of crime that is perpetrated by degenerate sex offenders. It is taking its toll at the rate of a criminal assault every 43 minutes, day and night in the United States. Because Polight was preying on who? Women and children. He was deemed a sexual psychopath because he caused bodily harm. He was charged with aggravated child abuse and great bodily harm. He's a sexual psychopath, people. And women and children are in danger if he's on the loose. So what do? Bet. They give him involuntary civil commitment. Psychiatric hospital. He's remanded to mentally disordered sex offenders, which is a program for sex offenders. It's a treatment program. People with MDSO, or what they call sexual psychopath statutes, he's a sexual psychopath. Let's listen to what the judge said again to co-sign what I showed you guys. Okay.
To this plea that it may subject you to involuntary civil commitment proceedings set forth in Florida.
Involuntary civil commitments.
394.910 through 394.931. Do you understand everything that I've said thus far?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I want to also...
He understood that and agreed that he's a sexual psychopath. YK the truth. He agrees that he will be under involuntary civil commitment. And after his incarceration, he's going to a state hospital for treatment. And if he isn't well, they have annual evaluations. He can be in there another year. State hospitals, state mental health hospitals is institutions. Prisons are institutions. Jails, prisons, and institutions. So basically, if he does 85%, 6 years, then does 2 years in a mental health institution, that's 8 years in an institution, locked up, being supervised and evaluated.
By 10 years of reporting probation. In addition to any of these special conditions of probation, you will also participate in and successfully complete a mentally disordered sex offender treatment program that...
The nigga is in a sex offender treatment program after he gets out of prison and while he's in prison. This is a sexual crime he's been charged with. They call, in general, aggravated child abuse and great bodily harm. What kind of child abuse? Sexual child abuse. You're wrong. This is Polight's deal. And I had to put this out there just to explain to people so they can get it. Now, I hope my brothers pocket watch when JT do something on this and break it down. I wish I could have went live and did it. It gets deeper and deeper. See, sometimes we got to listen to attorneys because they can explain things to us. Thanks, Ike, Keisha, Al Shabazz. I'm out.